Welcome to Cades Cove in the Smoky Mountain National Park. We recently took a vacation here and I wasn't planning on recording anything, but we came across some cemeteries and churches and I just couldn't help myself. So this first church that I'm taking you to, this was the first church built in Cades Cove. This is the Primitive Baptist Church. It was built in 1827. And it was used for all of the residents of Cades Cove, which actually was pretty substantial. You can see it's very, primitive. And it used to have a wood stove there in the center. You can see where it's been capped off and the ceiling as well. So they would have heated this in the winter months. And they just would have been hot in the summer because obviously no air conditioning. Very cool church. Prior to this church, the Cades Cove residents would just meet in each other's homes for Sunday service. They would just switch off and do it that way until they were able to erect this building and have a permanent place to pray and gather. They did have a hymnal and a Bible. They're not authentic to the time or anything, but just kind of props, I guess. Yeah, just checking them out. And this would have been the view that the pastor would have had of his congregation. Now we are heading into the cemetery. Now all of the cemeteries in Cades Cove are blockaded. They have paths that you can take, and they ask you to stay on the paths and not wander into the grassy areas, and I respected that. Not a problem. But here is a view of the primitive cemetery. This is the largest of those we visited. Once we got home, I did research some of these individuals I'm showing you, and I will put their information on the screen as we get to them. They had quite a few families buried here. You can see there are some new tombstones mixed in with the old tombstones. So there are some fresh burials. This is an example of a newer burial next to an older burial. She was buried with her twin sister, which I thought was pretty cool. As with most cemeteries, you are going to see a lot of children buried here. Kids just didn't usually make it to adulthood, unfortunately. We just didn't have the same technology and medicines and things back then. Of course, there are people that did make it to adulthood and had large families. You're going to see a lot of that too. Well, this one is interesting. Check that out, huh? Yeah. Very interesting. I kind of pondered on this stone for a while after reading it and researched it a little bit when I got home to see what this was about. Pretty cool, huh? And lots of pictures, which I am fond of pictures. I feel like photos just bring the people back alive. And I know not everyone likes how detailed I get. I get it. I get it. But that's just how I like to do it and what I enjoy showing. Lots of war heroes too, folks. And I thought that was pretty cool. And being that I'm from Wisconsin, I don't see stones as old as some of these, so I really liked that. Handsome fella, huh? Yeah. This one I couldn't read. But thankfully, someone in Find a Grave was able to have the information so that I could share it with you guys. This one was kind of tough too. I would have liked to explore further back so I could get better pictures, but I did zoom in as best I could. Another thing I noticed is oftentimes their death certificates would say no doctor present, probably because of where they lived. I don't think a lot of people realize that the Smoky Mountains did have people living there prior to the US government taking it over. I think that's a super sad story because it's just people lost their homes and those homes were beautiful and they put a lot of hard work into them and they worked the land. It's just sad. I can only imagine how those people felt being uprooted from the only home they had ever known. Um, I, Sometimes governments, I'm telling you what, not good. But I will try not to talk politics, okay? And you will see parents that lost more than one child. These stones were way too far, way too destroyed. I could not read them, unfortunately. This one I could. Here's one. I'm guessing he got hit by a train. Sad. Very sad. So that one was very recent. Like I said, there are some new stones here. They might not look new. I didn't know that they were, but they are. Unreadable. Couldn't find a grave. I really wanted to find out what happened to Samuel, but unfortunately I could find nothing. Nothing, nothing, nothing. So I don't know. Here's the lamb that we all know and love. Usually means a child was buried there. This one was broken, unfortunately, but they did repair it as best they could. Such a pretty girl, and she died so young. So that one looked to be drawn, which is also a cool way to commemorate them. These are a lot of broken off stones, kind of dilapidated, hard to read, but they've been there a long time. I did find pictures of their homes as well that you'll see peppered in. And some of the stones have been replaced. You can tell that family replaced them as they deteriorated. Ton babies. That's a lot of babies. Oh, goodness. And here we have a line of very similar stones, as you can see, all from the same mom and dad. Lined up in a row right along the path, actually. Were all of these. Had to flip them so you could read them. And here's just another view from the front. Other people visiting the cemetery this day. This was an interesting one. Unique. And then another dual headstone over here. Pretty cool. Now we are moving on to our second church in Cades Cove. This is the Methodist church. I'm not exactly sure when it was built, but you can see it's got the two front doors. I believe one for women, one for men, as they used to do it. And it is in better shape. It's a little larger, I believe, as well. But it's also newer, so that would make sense. Here we go in. Again, very simple interior, although the pews are a little more decorative, I guess you could say. A little more craftsmanship was put into those. But otherwise, it's pretty similar, y'all. Not a lot changed. I'm not sure why they built a new church. But here it is. I guess one is Baptist, one is Methodist, huh? All right, now we're up to another Bible, just for display, and the view of the congregation. This one had a pink ceiling. Interesting, huh? And there's where the stove used to be as well. And then the cemetery behind. I mean, look at the view. Absolutely beautiful view. Gorgeous. And we were here on a beautiful day, so that really helped. This one is not as large of a cemetery, but still very well kept, and as I said, beautiful. Another dual stone, husband and wife. And another little lamb. Once in a while you'll find an adult with a lamb headstone, but usually it's a child. Here's another view. This one I can only read the sparks. This one's pretty sad. They lost a lot of sons. The big stone was obviously commemorated later on, but these were their original stones. This one was an interesting one, friends. Now we're just wrapping around the bend. And you can see this stone, or these graves are raised a little bit. So kind of gives you a creepy feeling, to be honest. But I'm sure that's not the intent. And they look to be still visited. Look at all the flowers. The Schuler family, yeah. Wrapping around a lot of unused area with just a few graves scattered. And there's one out here in the middle by itself. And another one all by his lonesome. Seaton. And again, no physician called, probably because of where they're located. But look at that, isn't that pretty? And we just have a little one, it's partially buried here. And then two that look to be the same family based on the stones. They look very much the same or similar. And then we've got a little baby stone, a lot of baby stones. These are mostly infants that you're going to see buried in this next area. You know, people lost their kids young, guys. Lots of diseases that were untreatable and other reasons. But yeah, another infant. And another infant. Crazy times. I mean, there are some families that were lucky to have one survive. He married someone named Unity. What a cool first name. I love that. So cool. Another veteran. So young. He actually died in service to our country, so he's one of those I found that didn't live very long. And who do we have here? Raymond. No D. Raymond. That young man's story was very sad. It really brought things home to how things were. Here's another one right along the fence line, and you can see people left pennies. He was actually sent home because of the tuberculosis, and then he died at home. This is the last church that we visited on our trip. This is the Cades Cove Missionary Baptist Church. You can see it is newer, but very similar design. And then here is the cemetery. Now this cemetery is not very big and very hard to read the stones without leaving the path. Look at the birdie. Just visiting, just checking things out. These look to be baby stones based on their size and shape. But yeah, these stones were a lot harder to read and get to, so I didn't highlight very many in this cemetery just because of that. There are other cemeteries in Cades Cove, actually a lot of them that are like private burial type family cemeteries where there's maybe just a few stones. There's the outhouse. How cool is that? So yeah, there are other cemeteries. But that concludes our visit to Cades Cove. I couldn't help but remember a few other people that are buried here, so I hope you enjoy.